Part 2. Dawn. I am dreading this so much. Halo 4 opens as Halo 3 ends. The shattered carcass of the UNSC frigate Forward Unto Dawn, sliced in half like an apple, drifts through the endless darkness of space. Then boom! The frigate rumbles from a powerful, unseen force. Traffic cone-colored light sweeps the halls as a very alien-sounding scanning device rakes through every nook of the battered ship. Cortana urges the Master Chief awake, and it's time to find out what threat from the galaxy that the two of them saved together 4 years ago, is going to oppose them this time. A few minutes later, we're ambushed by an ill-fated elite, and Chief says,
"I thought we had a truce with the Covenant."
To which Cortana replies,
"A lot can happen in 4 years."
There's no doubt that this little flurry of combat adds to that all-important spark of mystery. Why? Because you, the player, like Chief, are thinking, last I remember, humanity was at war with Covenant loyalists, but we had killed their leadership. Did the survivors band together and continue fighting? If so, how many are out there? Is this still the same civil war? Then why was I attacked by an elite, all of whom, as far as we know, were Covenant separatists, who were humanity's allies?
We are aboard. Humans and elites.
My most recent memories of elites include fighting together with them against common enemies, building trust, and even making amends for past wrongs. It's hard to imagine the damage that losing this alliance would have caused in the past 4 years. What horrible things could have happened while we were asleep to make the elites turn against us? Man, I can't wait to see how the story answers these questions. The problem is that 343 chose instead to answer none of those questions. Not one. These ideas aren't ever explored or even mentioned in the remaining 7.5 missions. We're just supposed to accept that we're fighting the same aliens that recently were our friends. No research. No investigation. Yep, you're just gonna have to run with it. But we don't learn about Halo 4's ridiculous inability to answer questions until later. For now, we're too busy realizing we're under attack by a whole fleet of Covenant cruisers and that an ominous, metallic-looking planet has clawed you into its orbit.
We need to get off this ship.
We've got bigger problems. We've got a cruiser on an intercept course.
Does anybody want to tell me which one of these 7 extremely close Covenant cruisers, all of which are already within plasma torpedo range, is the one that Cortana is suddenly worried about? Are the other 6 not a problem? In fact, all the dialogue here on the observation deck is atrocious. Depending on how you play through this room and what buttons you pushed earlier in the level, Chief and Cortana's entire conversation changes. They say completely different lines. And since I apparently don't value my own free time, I've played through this mission enough to realize that some of the lines directly contradict one another. So, because of that one cruiser that poses a threat, Chief wonders whether the Dawn still has weapon systems online.
Didn't the ship's sensors say we still had weapon systems online?
If you checked the ship's sensors earlier on, Cortana will always say,
Yes, but since the ship was torn in half, we can't access the weapon stations. We'll have to fire them manually from the outer hull.
But if you didn't check the ship's sensors, Cortana's answer changes depending on, and I am not kidding, where you're standing in the room.
Are any of the ship-to-ship defenses online?
Only the Hyperion missiles, but we'll have to fire them manually from the outer hull.
Are any of the ship-to-ship defenses online?
No, but why should that stop us? Head for the elevators.
Hey, 343? I'm just gonna ask you point blank. Are the Dawn's weapons systems online at this point in the game?
Yes. No. Only the Hyperion missiles. Yes. No. Only the Hyperion missiles.
Do you see the problem here?
Anyway, so Cortana bleep bloops,
You'll have to prime the launch for ignition.
and then you pull yourself together and use a missile to shoot down one cruiser, which is a peculiar strategic decision considering that this kind of high-profile missile attack should draw the remaining 6 enemy ships to retaliate, potentially eradicating Forward Unto Dawn before we can bat an eyelash. But no worries, because instead the planet opens up and starts sucking everything inside. You try to take shelter, but you're overpowered and left to the whims of gravity, paying homage to past Halo games. Mission 1 is over. That wasn't so terrible, was it? There weren't many negatives worth our time. Unfortunately, that's about to change, because this planet is going to take all of the storytelling formulas that Halo has ever used and treat them like Requiem, where Halo stories go to die. This planet. Master Chief just had to land here, didn't he? This is where Chief confronts Cortana about the bleep blooping, and she initially tries to deny it before admitting that she has rampancy, a disease for which I'm told there are no pills to ease the pain. Now, going forward, I'd like you to keep this list of words in the back of your mind. Turbulent, fanatical, violent, neurotic, unrestrained, impulsive, dangerous, overwrought, volatile, frenzied. Remind you of anyone you know? Every one of those words is a synonym for rampant. This is a pretty big deal, what with how much responsibility we entrust in Cortana, but we'll get back to the destruction of her character later. First, I'd like to discuss a major missed opportunity in this portion of the story. Imagine, if you will, that Cortana's rampancy hadn't simply been depicted as bleep bloops and occasional outbursts. What if the player was also strategically deprived of information? So right at the onset, we're told in a line of expository text that we've been adrift for 4 years. Cortana even gets more specific when Chief asks for the timeline.
How long was I out?
4 years, 7 months, 10 days.
But wouldn't it have been more interesting if 343 had tweaked the story and made it so that Cortana didn't know? What if some of her memory banks failed over the past few years as rampancy set in, and she doesn't know how much time has passed? Maybe she tries to change the subject, until eventually Chief realizes she's avoiding the question. So he asks her directly, "How long has it been, Cortana?"
I don't know.
And that's when the player comes to grips with the fact that we have no idea whether we escaped the Ark 6 days ago or 6 years ago. We have no idea the state of post-war rebuilding for the UNSC, and we don't know just how bad Cortana's condition could be. You see, this was a massive opportunity for the story because this is the first time in the Halo franchise that we're left without intelligence sources during gameplay. Chief and Cortana are alone. No friendlies. No air support. No intel. Alone, shipwrecked on a mysterious world. Wouldn't limiting the player's information for a mission or two, wouldn't that help build the mystery and depth that 343 apparently wanted in Halo 4? Instead, 343 spoon-fed us unexciting minutia. Unless you're literally Edgar Allan Poe writing, what was that poem called? The Pelican? Expository text isn't known for being very deep. Anyway, so next you stumble into equipment that survives the crash. For one, you find battle rifles. And even more importantly, Warthogs. That's about as magical a transformation as you'll ever find. On a positive note, Halo players the world over have been very supportive of these radical changes to Halo's art style. But let's seriously ignore the fact that 343 took widely identifiable pop culture symbols and remolded them into generic sci-fi set pieces. Which it did. And let's ignore the scarab-sized ego 343 would need to have to willingly make such drastic changes. So, let's think about this. Does it make sense that when you leave the Ark at the end of Halo 3, battle rifles look like this? And when you arrive at Requiem in the same ship at the beginning of Halo 4, the battle rifles look like this? In storytelling terminology, this is usually called a continuity error. But don't listen to me, listen to this. And this. The Halo 3 Warthog sounded like a force to be reckoned with. Halo 4's sounds a lot more like an RC car. I can't emphasize enough. Unless Kirkland's best were adding to Halo canon that all battle rifles and Warthogs on this ship were cursed Beauty and the Beast style, this transformation is indefensible. Now, I can already hear some 343 defenders angrily yelling that every Halo game has added, removed, and altered weapons. Halo 3's assault rifle operated very differently than Halo Combat Evolved's. Halo Reach was the only Bungie game with a DMR. Every Halo game showcases a different version of the Magnum pistol, which is most obvious with regard to this Magnum since it shoots nuclear warheads. Bungie co-founder Jason Jones once addressed this very question about where the Combat Evolved pistol went.
There's a Covenant sabotage expedition to take away the human pistol because it was just too good.
Oh, I love that. But in all seriousness, yes, of course different Halo games have some different weapons. That's true. But here's another truth. The differences in Bungie's games are all reasonable within the universe. You see, in real life, different branches of the military are often issued different firearms. So it makes sense that the UNSC Army on Reach is using a weapon not found in the UNSC Marines. And it makes sense that the Special Forces on the Pillar of Autumn in Combat Evolved might have been issued MA-5Bs, while the Marines in Humanity's Last Stand during the Battle of Earth in Africa were given MA-5Cs. All of these changes are plausible, which you just can't say for guns and jeeps that were stored in one frigate, not touched for 4 years. I promise you, these battle rifles weren't in there getting a 4-year degree. And it's no different for this enchanted suit of armor. Common sense should have told 343 not to arbitrarily change Chief's armor in cryosleep. Maybe it could have started out even more damaged than it was in Halo 3, perhaps frayed. Maybe parts of it could be frozen and cracked from cryosleep. Maybe he could get this new Spartan armor from, I don't know, the new ship that shows up and has new Spartans in it?
Sentinels.
I wondered when they'd show up.
And I'm wondering when my professors will finally grade exams quickly. But that problem is irrelevant to this review. Just like Chief and Cortana's dialogue about Sentinels is irrelevant filler in the Halo 4 story. Sentinels barely appear in the entire rest of the game. They're just here. Cool. Hey, has anyone seen my gun anywhere? Next, Chief and Cortana are ramping up their quest to get back to Earth. Now let me ask you a question. Think about this. If I told you that I'm making this review in a place called Buoyant, would you know where I am? Would you know how to get to me from the place on Earth where you currently are? Seriously, which direction would you go? Unless you cheated, you probably have no clue. Here's your answer. Buoyant, Mongolia. Did you know that's where it is? I'll give you another chance. Now look for someplace called Bella Vista. I'll let you have a few seconds to lock your eyes onto where you think it is. There. Bella Vista, Mozambique. Oh, you didn't know that one either? Shocker. Point is, when Chief and Cortana reach the cartographer, Cortana says that the Forerunners, a civilization that was wiped from the galaxy millions of years ago, called this planet Requiem.
Shield World designate Requiem.
And Chief says,
At least we know where we are now.
How exactly? Knowing nothing but the name of a place on Earth isn't very helpful. How would it help Chief and Cortana to know only the name that extinct aliens gave, eons ago, to one out of several billion planets in the galaxy? Humans have never charted this system, and have no idea what Requiem's coordinates are in relation to other worlds. Later on, Captain Del Rio literally says that these coordinates were just recently discovered within a Forerunner artifact, which these two have no idea about. So congrats, Chief. Congrats, Cortana. You learned you're on Requiem. Good luck finding out where Requiem is in relation to anything. This is the point in the game where we begin descending from yellow flags to red flags. The point when we realize these issues aren't just a little sniffle, but an epidemic of poor storytelling. Soon after this gaffe in logic, it becomes clear that 343 has no idea how to set the tone in what should be intense gameplay moments. Tone is a crucial element that sits behind every story ever made. Let me show you a quick comparison of tones being set. Fights against hunters in Halo games are essentially mini boss battles. Hunters are an incredibly fearsome species and a keystone within the Covenant military. The first time you encounter hunters in Combat Evolved, this intense music kicks in. The first time you face hunters in Halo 4, on the other hand, this peaceful funeral song is playing. Which music do you think is more appropriate for your first fight with a pair of hunters? Need some time to think? And if you think this example of tone being awful was egregious, well, you haven't seen anything yet.